Hello and welcome to day 4 of our live streaming coverage from RSAC Conference 2025. I'm Jameson Cush with Informa Tech Target and Ion Tech. And if you missed days 1, 2, or 3, please check them out at Ion Tech. We discuss topics ranging from AI sustainability to agentic AI, along with many others, including cloud security, quantum preparedness, and cybersecurity infrastructure. Joining me once again to share in hosting duties, B2B media sensation and editorial director from Informa Tech Target, hello. Jen English. Jen, welcome.
Thank you, thank you.
So Jen, you are a bit of a minor celebrity in your own right, thanks to your work on Ion Tech.
Sure.
You certainly have to be excited that some of your peers, the major celebrities, will be here at RSAC later
Yeah,
tonight.
yeah, I mean, we've got the real celebrity, Jamie Foxx, closing out the conference today, so that should be a good time, and I'm excited because we've got the real experts today with at Dark Reading to talk to, so I'm looking forward to having
experts/celebrities.
/celebrities, yes.
And that would be Becky Bracken, the senior editor from Dark Reading, joining us once again. Thank you so much, Becky.
Thank you for having me. This is really fun. I appreciate it.
Well, you came back, so 2 days ago you were here and you were discussing, you were looking forward to seeing Kristi Noem's keynote speech, and apparently that happened yesterday or the day before?
Yes.
Okay, so what were the takeaways from that? I know you were really interested to hear what she had to say.
I am interested, and it was an interesting insight into what we can kind of expect moving forward. I think the bottom line is CISA is not here to solve every problem. That was a refrain of hers throughout. But what CISA is going to be focused on under her leadership is enforcement. They want to be an enforcement action. They want to be in the offensive security space. What that means and how we get there remains to be seen. But I think that the real takeaway is that there's a real opportunity, I think, for the cybersecurity community to provide input. She asked several times, call us, tell us what you need. You have a seat at the table. And so I would encourage, I think it would be smart for the cybersecurity community to really try to engage with CISA and really open up that dialogue as it's being completely transformed. I think the important thing to note is that she is behind CISA's mission. I didn't get any feeling that CISA was going to go away. It's going to be skinnied down, and it's going to be reconnoitered in a way that will increase efficiency, which we know this administration is big on. And so the real challenge, I think, is for the cybersecurity community to engage with CISA and give as much input as they can as it's reshaped.
So what do you think are going to be the priorities from CISA? Do you have secure by design, other things like that?
Well, her priorities were very much enforcement. She kept talking about, her job is to be the lobbyist for the taxpayer. Importantly, though, what she said was, CISA now is 6 years old. They were building an agency from the ground up without a lot of, prior knowledge, and now we're 6 years into it. And it is a good time to look back and reevaluate and see what CISA is doing well and what it isn't. But again, that's where the community comes into play to help them figure that out. Other priorities were very much offensive, very much enforcement. Again, we're not sure exactly what that means. She did mention secure by design, but she mentioned it in terms of a cost savings, that to make sure that the DHS, as they acquire software, are mindful of acquiring software that is built with security in mind. So I don't think it's so much going to be a regulatory push on things, but they're going to, according to her, use their buying power to, drive that.
Mm-hmm. So circling back to the enforcement aspect of this, because there's a great quote I think you had in your story. She had said, when it comes to bad actors, CISA will be focused on making them pay a price in a way the private sector can't. So judging from what you're telling us now, there weren't many details.
Weren't many details. I mean, she's talking about, I think in that quote, she's really talking about how she has a more of a reach from a law enforcement perspective. But, there's going to be some jurisdictional issues. Is that DHS? She's very much of the mind that the internet is a DHS is DHS's jurisdiction. I don't know when we get into, attacking infrastructure, does that then go to DOD? I think there's a lot of questions about how that's going to break down. Again, we are just in a very much a wait and see. I mean, what we're seeing, we're getting a lot of generalities. We're getting, sort of an idea of focus and goals, but there's not a lot of detail there. And I think intentionally, they don't want to be the policer of the sector. And I think based on what we'd seen in the previous administration, that could be welcome in a lot of areas, SEC enforcement, and that could be welcome. In one of the talks that's very popular, it's worth mentioning now, the SANS 5 different vulnerabilities and how to fix them. One of the conversations was how GDPR and other AI regulation is keeping the cybersecurity defender segment of the industry from being able to fully use AI against attackers because of their limitations on data access and data sharing. So, I mean, there's no question that regulation is an issue, but again, this requires the cybersecurity community to educate the government, educate our legislators. During the policy part of the presentation with legislators and from both the Republicans and Democrats on the House side, their priorities are not technical. On the Republican side, their top priority is workforce development. On the Democratic side, their top priority is saving CISA. So these are not, these are arguments that we're still having that don't really apply to what's happening today. So again, it's an opportunity and really an imperative that the cybersecurity community engage now.
So I think related to this, right, CISA already kind of made waves with the MITRE CVE database.
Correct.
What are the implications of that for the cybersecurity community?
This is so interesting because I covered this when it happened. And the idea was how could we, and the reaction was, how could we even function, without this? How can the government sort of abandon this important piece of cybersecurity, fundamentals? The private sector, the CEOs that I've spoken with in the vendor space, they're game to fund this. So CVE is not going to go away. CVE wouldn't have gone away completely, even with the cut of CISA funding. But I think what we're in now is, again, an opportunity. When CEOs said to me, I go, well, what do you think it looks like? He goes, we're having conversations now about what good looks like in this area. Because my question is, are vendors now going to have the ability to influence the CVE? And the real world answer is not so much. These things are political anyway, and based on how they're calculated, it's pretty data driven. And so the sense is there probably wouldn't be much monkeying around anybody could do with it. And the other interesting thing that was brought up by one of my sources is, in my coverage, it was like, well, CVE is sort of the American standard, the EU and all these other places are trying to come up with competing standards, which then diffuses the whole, system of tracking these things. And the question the response I got from that is, well, why is the US in charge? Why does the US have to own this? Maybe there's another entity, maybe there's another global neutral, organization that could oversee this. And so, again, we're reinventing everything. Cybersecurity, you've got to get on it. You've got to engage because these things are being decided now. And so, it's going to be interesting to see how it goes. But I'm a little reassured that the industry is on it and they're thinking about new and innovative ways to solve it.
So what ways, how is the vendor community reacting now? Coming out of this, the way you're describing it, it seems like there are just more questions than answers.
Facts.
Okay.
The best quote I got when I said, to a CEO of a very influential company in the space, he said, we're all just trying to keep our powder dry. And I think that sort of sums up the vibe of the whole, everybody is waiting to see what is going to happen. There's unquestionably an environment where B2B transactions are probably going to slow. The economy is slowing. Whether that kicks into a wider recession is a question mark. And so, corporate boardrooms are girding against this, as well as CEOs of these companies. But again, another good source of mine where I'm like, is everybody just kind of freaked out? And he goes, I'm a capitalist. I look at risk and I try to convert that into reward. So his perspective, which I thought was refreshing, is that there's a lot of upheaval right now. There's a lot of transformation. That also presents a certain amount of opportunity, and that the winners through this sort of crazy period we're going through, the ones that can best evaluate the risk reward of the environment that we're in are gonna win. And so I think everybody's just sitting there trying to evaluate where those opportunities might be.
Because my question to that is, which enterprises are actually going to take those risks? Because the whole intention is, hey, minimize risk. So where do you think they're going to be willing to take that risk in within cybersecurity?
I don't know. It's funny because you look at the innovations and the things that are flashy and salesy, agentic AI and all of the bells and whistles. But when you go into the technical conversations, we are still talking about logging. We are still talking about asset inventory. We are talking about basics. And so the question is, how are we going to, the CISA stick is gone. So we're going to have to use the carrot on these things. And how are we going to bring innovation and bring investment into these critical infrastructure, OT security? These aren't sexy things, but they're critical, to use a very overused word in this industry. But, again, it's going to be about, drawing investment and drawing dollars where it needs to be, not necessarily chasing the next big thing, which are conflicting ideas. So TBD, I think, is the short answer to your question.
Well, keeping in the theme of not having answers, touching on your other story that you had written, adversaries are toying with US networks and DC is short on answers. So just to read from the lead, nation-state adversaries are lurking in US critical infrastructure networks right now, but government officials who came to speak at this year's RSAC 2025 conference were short on solutions. It
was shocking is probably not the word, but we sit down and it's unanimous that yes, the typhoons are a great, Salt Typhoon and other Chinese actors in particular, they are in there. They're in our networks. We know this. But we're not really doing anything about it. Like I said again, legislative, political priorities are not oriented around this. They're oriented in saving CISA and passing workforce things. So one of the speakers was a retired, I think, General Montgomery, Brigadier General, which is pretty much the coolest title I think anybody could have. And he was wonderful and candid, and he spoke long-term about the need for the standing up of a cyber force of some sort to protect American critical infrastructure. But we are so far away from anything like that. And so what we are going to have to do is, again, try to attract interest in solving these critical infrastructure problems. They are not surging resources to these issues, which one would think would be the first thing to do. They are not. They are cutting CISA. Now, will they replace that with something else? Are there things in the works going on in back rooms that we don't know about? Let's all hope so. But I did not hear from the government anybody saying, we are serious as a heart attack about this, and there is not a price tag we are not willing to pay. And I guess as an American, I would like to hear that, not necessarily as a journalist, but as an American. So again, private sector, we really need you. We need you to step up, and we need you to educate.
Yeah. So you mentioned briefly about SANS with their critical vulnerabilities. What were some of the top ones that they mentioned? It
was, again, interestingly, it wasn't these exotic, it was Heather, gosh, I can't remember her last name right now. I'm such a fan of hers, I'm embarrassed. But she talked about cloud logging. And if you don't have the logs and you don't have the data, you're done. The OT expert and ICS expert talked about the fact that that utilities are so busy building in resiliency. What happens if an attacker takes over a utility and you can't shut it down? They're using it against you. So, it's they're broad things. Again, it was the AI regulation issue that, regulations are keeping us from keeping pace with attackers who are using AI. The very startling statistic that was given is that this new, they analyzed an AI phishing technique that's being actively used. This AI created phishing email was successful 93% of the time. We're not getting, please help me get my money, I'm a Nigerian prince. That's done. These are not grammatically errored, these are branded. You cannot tell the difference. And with AI, they know about you. They can make it directly, attractive to you to get you to click. So while they're having this success, the defenders don't have the ability to collate all the data that they have because it's siloed. GDPR in particular is siloed based on these regulatory constraints. So there is a privacy AI defender conversation to have, which again, not shockingly, the plea was, please educate yourself. Please go out and don't just, read the AI literature that's readily available. We need the cybersecurity researchers to play with it, to take it out for a test bin to see what it could do, and then educate our legislators. They need to know what the implications are. And again, that's on us to do.
Does the private sector seem up to that task? I mean, you say DC is short on answers, they're cutting funding here and there.
The one thing that, the greatest joy of my job is that I spend my days talking to the smartest people I can find. And the thing I love about this industry is these are smart people who have had to educate people along the way. It's in the DNA of cybersecurity because it's not something you can see. It's not something, so they have had to engage from early days to explain what's going on and why. And so this sector is up for it. It just needs to get on it yesterday,
Great. So what are some takeaways that you've had from the conference so far?
The takeaways are, the ideas that I'm noodling around is, what are the opportunities both for defenders, for enterprises, and for attackers coming out of this sort of relative point of chaos right now. Another thing I'm really interested in is figuring out what the big brains in the industry are thinking in terms of what good looks like. I think nobody knows, and the people that I asked, and you always know that you're talking to somebody credible when they said, I'm not sure, I'm still thinking about it. And I think that's going on across the industry. Everybody's kind of just thinking about it right now so that they can take the most advantage possible. And so I think it's going to be fine. That's my takeaway, because I came in not being sure. I think it's going to be fine. I think that everybody in this industry understands the challenge and is very much up for it. And so I'm going to follow with great relish to see, what these big brains come up with.
Yeah. Hopefully good news.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a perfect note to end on, too.
Yeah,
It's
right.
positive.
A positive note.
I like it.
Yes.
I like
I'm
it.
happy to bring good news occasionally.
Excellent.
Well, Becky, where can we find all your stories from?
Darkreading.com. You can find me there. I also run our podcast, Dark Reading Confidential, which is available on all your podcast platforms. Please check that out. And thank you so much.
Thank you, Becky,
Appreciate
and thank you, Jen.
Thank you.
And thank you once again for joining us. I am Jameson Cush. Please remember to like and subscribe.